On my birthday, my family presented me with what they called a special present, a formal eviction notice for my own house. Instead of crumbling, I smiled knowingly, and later, on their wedding day, I returned the favor with a perfectly timed act of poetic justice that left everyone speechless. The eviction notice felt as cold as ice in my hands, its sharp edges slicing through the lingering warmth of my birthday celebration. Just moments ago, I had been grinning, surrounded by family, convinced this would be my best birthday ever. I'm Vivian, and this is how my 30th birthday turned into the day my family turned against me. "Open it, dear. We're so excited for you to see what's inside," my mother had said, her eyes glittering with what I now see wasn't joy but anxiety. The elegant envelope, wrapped in silver paper and tied with a delicate bow, looked so innocent. In the living room of my childhood home, the one I'd spent years renovating, the room was filled with familiar faces. My cousin Sulla perched on the sofa's armrest, watching me with an unreadable expression. My brother Jay stood by the fireplace, hands buried deep in his pockets, avoiding my gaze. "Come on, Viv, we haven't got all day," Sulla chirped. "Honey, sweet," my cousin added, and I remember thinking how strange it was that she had dressed so up for a simple family get-together. As I tore open the envelope, the lingering taste of birthday cake on my tongue turned bitter. The legal document inside made my stomach drop. Notice of eviction stared back at me in bold, unyielding letters. "What is this?" I barely whispered. "Mom, Dad." My mother's face crumpled. "Sweetheart, we've been trying to find the right moment to tell you," she began. "Tell me what?" I stood, paper trembling in my hands. "You're kicking me out of my own home, the home I've poured my savings and my heart into." Sulla cleared her throat before continuing. "Vivian, be reasonable. The house was never officially yours, the deed is still in your parents' names, and they've decided it's time for a change." "A change?" I spun around, anger rising. "What do you know about this?" "I'm only trying to help the family make a sound financial decision," she replied smoothly, smoothing down her designer dress. "The market is hot right now." "The market?" I laughed bitterly, my voice breaking into a sob. "This is my home, not some investment property." Finally, my brother Jay spoke up. "Viv, maybe we should talk about this privately." "No!" I slammed the paper on the coffee table, making the plates rattle. "I want answers now." "Mom, Dad, why are you doing this?" My father refused to meet my eyes. "There have been concerns about your ability to maintain the property," he murmured. "Sulla has shown us some troubling documents. I felt as if I were drowning. "What documents?" "I've done nothing but improve this house. Look around. New hardwood floors, an updated kitchen, restored Victorian details. I did all of this, even with unreliable contractors." Stella interjected softly. "And what about the noise complaints from neighbors? And the unauthorized modifications?" "That's completely false." My voice cracked as I turned to my best friend, Paisley, standing frozen in the corner. "Paisley, tell them you've been here for every renovation," I urged. Paisley stepped forward, her expression fierce. "Everything Vivian has done was by the book. I've seen every permit myself." Yet my family's expressions remained unmoved. My mother reached for my hand. "Sweetie, you have 30 days to..." I jerked away from her touch. 30 days to leave my home? On my birthday? The room began to spin. "How long have you been planning this?" Sulla stood and straightened her blazer. "I think we should all calm down and discuss this rationally. Fighting it will only make things worse." Looking at her calm mask of false concern, something clicked inside me. This wasn't just about the house. It was all calculated. The formal outfit, the documents she mentioned, positioning herself as the voice of reason. "Get out," I whispered, then louder. "Everyone, get out." "Vivian," my mother started, but one by one, they filed out, leaving only Paisley behind. As the door clicked shut behind my family, I sank onto the couch, the eviction notice mocking me from the coffee table. Paisley sat beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. "This isn't over, Viv. Something's off here, and we're going to figure it out." I wiped away my tears, anger replacing the shock. "You're right. Somehow, Sulla's behind this. She's always wanted this house, ever since we were kids." I straightened up, determination flooding through me. Looking around at my beloved home, with the walls I'd painted, the fixtures I'd restored, and the memories I'd built, I made a promise. This wouldn't be the last birthday I celebrated here, not if I had anything to say about it. The morning after my disastrous birthday, I sat at my kitchen counter staring at my phone. 17 missed calls from Mom, 5 from Jace, and none from Stella. "You need to eat something," Paisley said, sliding a plate of toast in front of me. She had stayed the night on my couch, just like old college days. "You can't fight on an empty stomach." I pushed the plate away. "I can't eat. I need to figure out what Sulla's been telling my parents." My hands trembled as I pulled up my mother's contact info. "I'm calling her." "Put it on speaker," Paisley said, settling next to me. "Vivian, thank goodness. We've been so worried. My mom answered on the first ring. Save it, I interrupted. I want to know exactly what Sulla's been saying about me. A heavy sigh crackled through the speaker. Honey, it's not just what Sulla said. She showed us documents about unauthorized construction and noise complaints from the neighborhood association. That's impossible. I slammed my hand on the counter. I have every permit, every approval right here in my files. Who specifically complained? I don't have the actual complaints in front of me. Stella handled that part. Of course she did. I laughed bitterly. Did you even verify any of it? Ask me about it before ambushing me on my birthday. Silence stretched between us. Mom, Sulla said you deny everything. My voice was barely audible. In a small voice, my mom replied, they said you've been struggling financially and cutting corners. I demanded copies of every document, every complaint, everything Sulla showed you today. Vivian, please understand, no, you understand that this house is my life. I've invested every penny in it, and I'm not leaving without a fight. I hung up before she could continue. Paisley squeezed my shoulder. That's my girl. Now what? Now we gather evidence. I grabbed my laptop. I need proof that Say is lying. My phone buzzed. A text from Jace. Meet me at Carlos Coffee in 30. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, I walked into Carlos Coffee and found my brother in our usual corner booth, looking guilty. You knew what they were planning, I accused, sliding into the seat across from him. You knew. Jace ran a hand through his hair. I found out yesterday morning. Mom and Dad swore me to secrecy. CA had proof you were in trouble, and you believed her. Of course not. He leaned forward. Look, something weird is going on. Last week, I overheard Stella on the phone talking about property values and development opportunities in our neighborhood. My heart skipped a beat. Development opportunities? And get this, her fiancé, Valentine, his family owns that new luxury condo complex. Downtown, the pieces started falling into place. Our street was one of the last historic areas in town, prime for development. My house sat on the largest lot. She wants to sell it to developers, I whispered. That's why she's doing this. There's more, Jace said. I did some digging. Sulla's been meeting with the City Planning Commission. And guess who else attended those meetings? I stared at him. Mom and Dad. He nodded. They think they're protecting you from financial ruin, but Sulla's playing them. She convinced them selling is the only way to save you from yourself. My phone buzzed, an email from Mom with attachments. I opened it, scanning quickly, then froze. These documents. I shoved my phone toward Jace. The letterhead is wrong. The permit numbers don't match my records. She forged them, Jace muttered. Keep your voice down, he warned, glancing around. Sulla's got friends everywhere. I don't care. This is proof she's lying. I stood, heart pounding. I need to show Mom and Dad. Wait. Jace grabbed my wrist. Sulla's wedding to Valentine is in 2 weeks. Everyone will be there, family, friends, business associates. If you're going to expose her, that's your chance to do it properly. I sank back into my seat, my mind racing. 2 weeks to gather evidence, to prove she was trying to steal my home for her fiancé's development company. I'll help, Jace said firmly. So will Paisley. But we have to be smart about this. I nodded, determination replacing my fear. Sulla thought I'd just roll over and accept this, but she had no idea what I was capable of. On my walk home, I called Paisley. Hey, remember that friend of yours who works at the city planning office? We need to talk to her. Now, the game was on. And this time, I was playing to win. The planning office smelled like stale coffee and printer ink. Paisley's friend, Amanda, pulled a file from the cabinet and added it to the growing stack on her desk. These are all the development proposals for your neighborhood from the past 6 months, she said, keeping her voice low despite the empty office. Including 3 from Valum Development Group. Valentine's company, I muttered, flipping through the pages. My hands froze on a familiar sketch. This is my house. Paisley leaned over my shoulder. Look at the date. This was filed 2 months ago. Before the eviction notice, I whispered, anger building. Before any of this started. Amanda glanced nervously at the door. There's something else. These signatures here, she pointed to the bottom of the document. Your parents' names, authorizing the preliminary survey. My stomach lurched. They've been planning this for months. Paisley grabbed my arm, pointing to another name. Look who notarized it. The name jumped off the page, Marcus Quinn. Sulla's father. That sneaky little. I stopped as footsteps echoed in the hallway. Amanda quickly gathered the files, shoving them back into the cabinet. I've got copies at my desk, she whispered. I'll email them to you tonight. We barely made it out before someone entered the office. In the parking lot, I leaned against my car, trying to steady my breathing. We need to talk to Valentine, Paisley said. Maybe he doesn't know what Sulla is doing. He has to know. His company filed the proposals. My phone rang. Jace. Sis, you need to get to Mom and Dad's. Now. What's wrong? Sela is here with some contractor, talking about renovation plans. They're acting like they already own the place. I was already in my car. I'm coming. 15 minutes later, I stormed through my parents' front door. Sela's voice drifted from the kitchen, smooth as honey. The whole street will benefit from modernization. Property values will soar over my dead body. They all jumped. Sela recovered first, her smile never wavering. Vivian, we were just discussing the neighborhood's future. You mean your future? Your fiancé's future. I slammed the development proposals on the kitchen table. When were you going to tell everyone about Val's plans? My mother's face paled. What is she talking about? Don't listen to her, Sela said quickly. She's just upset about the eviction. Show them, I demanded. Show them the real reason you want my house. The contractor cleared his throat awkwardly. I should go. Stay, Sela commanded. Vivian's just causing drama as usual. Always so emotional. Emotional? I laughed bitterly. You forged documents. You lied to my parents. You're trying to steal my home for your fiancé's development project. That's enough, my father shouted. Sela's been nothing but helpful. Helpful? I grabbed the proposals and threw them in front of him. Look at the dates. Look at the signatures. She's been planning this for months. My mother picked up the papers with trembling hands. These aren't the documents you showed us, Sela. Because they're fake, she snapped. Vivian's desperate. She'll say anything. I have copies from the city planning office, I cut in. Official copies. Want to see them? For the first time, Sela's composure cracked. You went through official records? And I found everything. The fake complaints. The forged permits. The development plans. It's all there. The contractor stood. Miss Shelton, if there's some kind of legal issue, there's no issue, Sela interrupted through gritted teeth. Everything's fine. My phone buzzed, an email from Amanda with the promised documents. I held up my phone triumphantly. Want to see the proof? It's right here. Sela's face hardened. You have no idea what you're doing, Vivian. No idea who you're dealing with. No, I shot back. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I turned to my parents. Check your emails. I'm sending you everything. Every lie, every manipulation, every secret meeting with Valum Development. Sela, my mother's voice was small. Is this true? But Sela was already heading for the door, the contractor trailing behind her. At the threshold, she turned back. This isn't over, Vivian. Not by a long shot. After she left, silence filled the kitchen. My father stared at the documents, his face ashen. We should have asked you, he finally said. Should have verified. Yes, I said, gathering the papers. You should have. But now you know the truth. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I left them there, surrounded by evidence of their own misplaced trust. In my car, I called Paisley. Phase 1, complete, I said. Now we go after Valentine. Finding Valentine was easier than expected. He was at his usual lunch spot, a trendy cafe downtown, with his sister, Leah. I smoothed my blazer and approached their table, Paisley close behind me. Mind if we join you? I asked, sliding into the empty chair without waiting for an answer. Valentine's fork clattered against his plate. Vivian? What are you doing here? Funny story, I said. I was just at the city planning office, looking at some very interesting documents about my house. Leah's eyes narrowed. Your house? The same one your brother's company plans to demolish. Valentine dabbed his mouth with a napkin. This isn't the place. Oh, it's exactly the place. I pulled out the proposals. Your company filed these 2 months ago. Before the eviction notice. Before Sela's lies. Leah snatched the papers. Her face darkened. You're planning to tear down the entire street? I smiled. Not if I have anything to say about it. Explicit discussion about their plan to pressure my parents into forcing the sale to fast-track development. This is exactly what we need, Paisley whispered. There's more, Leah added. Board meetings, private chats, and financial deals. I can get you everything. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Jace, * mom and dad want to talk. They've seen the evidence. Looks like things are shifting, * I told Leah, we need to act fast. The wedding's in 10 days. She gave a grim smile. Perfect timing for everything to unravel. I'll send what I have tonight, she promised as she walked away. Paisley then turned to me. Are you sure about this? Using her, using us too. I replied, right now, we all want the same thing. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again from an unknown number. The message chilled me. * back off now or you'll regret it. Some things are worth more than a house. * Paisley read it over my shoulder. She's threatening you. She's desperate, I explained, saving the text as evidence. Desperate people make mistakes. Determined, I headed to my car. Time to show my parents who they've been protecting. Pieces of the puzzle were falling into place faster than I expected, but the threat from Sela lingered, a warning that the battle was far from over. Something told me the worst was still ahead. I woke up to the sound of shattering glass. I leapt out of bed and rushed downstairs to find my front window smashed, a brick among the pieces. A note was tied around it. Final warning. My hands trembled as I called the police. While waiting, I texted Paisley and Jace. They arrived before the officers did. "This has gone too far," Jace said as he examined the brick. "You need to be careful, Viv. I'm not backing down now." I handed the note to the officer and stated, "This is connected to a bigger issue. I have documentation." The officer suggested filing a restraining order. "Not much we can do without knowing who threw it," he added. After they left, Paisley helped me board up the window. "At least we have Leah's evidence," she noted. "Those emails she sent last night are devastating." Checking my phone, I saw 3 missed calls from my mom. "I need to go see them. They've had time to process everything." Jace insisted, "I'm coming with you." 20 minutes later, we sat in our parents' living room. Mom's eyes were red from crying. "We've been such fools," she whispered. "All those documents she showed us, we wanted to believe she was helping with the development plans," Dad added heavily. "We had no idea they planned to demolish the whole street. We thought they were just renovating." Stella spoke up. "I knew exactly which buttons to push." I said, "She played on your worries about me to make you think I was in trouble. She's been manipulating this family for years." Jace interjected, "Remember when she convinced you to give her grandma's jewelry instead of yours?" My mom's face crumpled. "You didn't want it. You thought it was old-fashioned." I swallowed hard. "I never said that. Just like I never made any unauthorized changes to the house. We've had no complaints from the neighbors." Dad chimed in, "We talked to everyone on the street. No one ever complained. In fact, they love what you've done with the place." My phone buzzed again. It was Leah. "Emergency. Meet me at Riverside Park." "Now I have to go," I said, standing up. "But first, are you with me on this?" I asked my mom. "Really with me?" she replied, squaring her shoulders. "We'll do whatever it takes to make this right." At the park, Leah paced near the fountain, her face pale. "Sala knows I helped you. She's threatening to reveal something from my past to the board at Valum." "What do you mean?" I asked. A mistake I made years ago. It could ruin my career." She ran her fingers through her hair. "I can't risk it." I grabbed her shoulders. "Whatever it is, it can't be worse than what she's doing now." Leah's eyes met mine. "You don't understand. My whole life could crumble." "Then let it," I said, my voice harder than intended. "Sometimes, you have to lose everything to do what's right." Leah's eyes filled with tears. "Easy for you to say. You're just fighting for a house." "No," I replied. "I'm fighting for justice, for truth, for every person Scylla has ever manipulated or hurt, including you." She wiped her tears. "There's something else." I overheard Valentine on the phone. "They're moving up the timeline. They want to close the deal right after the wedding. That's in a week. The rehearsal dinner is in 3 days." Leah straightened. "You're right. I can't let her win again." My phone lit up with another message from an unknown number. Asterisk, "Hope you enjoyed the brick. Next time, it won't be your window." Asterisk, I showed Leah the text. Her face hardened. "She's really losing it." "Good," I said. "The more desperate she gets, the more mistakes she'll make." At the rehearsal dinner, Leah said suddenly, "All the investors, board members, and the whole family will be there. It's the perfect chance to expose everything. But Sulla will be expecting something. We have to be ready." I smiled grimly. "Then we need to be even more prepared. I want every document, every email, every piece of evidence you can get, and I need them tonight." Leah nodded. "I'll have them to you in 2 hours." As she walked away, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Paisley. Asterisk, "Your mom just called. Sulla's at their house, crying, saying you're trying to ruin her life. Your parents aren't buying it, but she's putting on quite a show." Asterisk, I texted back, "Let her perform. In 3 days she'll have a real reason to cry." The stakes had never been higher, and each desperate move Sulla made only proved how close we were to taking her down. The countdown to the rehearsal dinner had begun. The day before the rehearsal dinner, I sat in my lawyer's office surrounded by piles of evidence. Sarah, my attorney, flipped through the documents with growing interest. "These emails between Sulla and Valum are damning," she said, "and the forged documents, that's criminal." "But is it enough?" I asked. "To stop the development entirely?" "Absolutely. To press charges, probably." She leaned in. "But are you sure you want to do this at the rehearsal dinner? It's perfect timing. All the investors and the entire family will be there." My phone buzzed with yet another threat, this time from Stella. Asterisk, last chance to back down. "Remember, I know about Miami." Asterisk, Sarah caught my expression. "What's wrong?" she asked. "She's trying to blackmail me now." I showed her the text. "The Miami thing? It's nothing, just a spring break mistake from college that she thinks she can use against me." "Document everything," Sarah advised, handing me a USB drive. "I've organized all the evidence here, including the police report on the brick." "Are you sure you don't want private security?" she asked. "I'll be fine." Jason and Paisley will be with me tomorrow night outside the office. Later, I found Leah waiting in her car. Get in. There's something you need to see. She drove us to Val's office building and parked in the underground garage. Valentine and Scylla are in a board meeting upstairs, but look at this, she said, pulling out her tablet to show security footage from earlier that day. Scylla was arguing with someone in the garage. Her father's voice came through the recording. I can't keep covering for you. Another voice added, the notary stamped the forged documents. It's too risky. Then came a pleading, Daddy, please, just one more day after the rehearsal dinner. It won't matter anymore. What's happening after the rehearsal dinner? I asked Leah. I'm not sure, she replied. They've booked a private room at the restaurant, invitation only, after the main event. My phone rang. It was Paisley. Viv, you need to get home now. Someone's been in your house. I sped back home. Paisley and Jace were waiting outside. Inside, every renovation I had done, the walls I painted, every fixture I restored, had been photographed and marked with bright red X's. They're documenting everything they plan to destroy, Jace said quietly. Paisley picked up a business card left on the counter. Look, who's handling the demolition. The company name made my blood boil. It belonged to Stella's uncle. They're keeping it all in the family, I said bitterly. How did they even get in? My mom called, Jace explained. Scylla asked to borrow her spare key this morning to measure for wedding decorations. And when Mom refused, Stella broke down crying, saying you were trying to ruin her special day. Mom felt guilty and eventually told her where the spare was. I sank onto the stairs, staring at the red X's scattered everywhere. This is my grandmother's house, I murmured. I learned to walk on these floors. I had my first kiss by that bay window. And you're not going to take it away. Paisley said firmly, tomorrow night we end this. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Leah, * emergency, Sala's changed the seating arrangements. You're not invited to the private meeting anymore. * I replied, * doesn't matter. We'll do it during the main dinner, more witnesses that way. * I spent the rest of the day with Sarah finalizing our strategy. By nightfall, everything was ready. Lying in bed later, I heard footsteps on my porch. Grabbing my phone to call the police, I crept to the window, only to see my mom leaving something by the door. I opened it to find a small package with a note. * Your grandmother wanted you to have this. I should have given it to you years ago. Love, Mom. * Inside was my grandmother's antique locket, the very one Stella had. I never meant to open it, but I found a tiny photograph of my grandmother, proudly standing in front of the house on the day she bought it. My phone buzzed with one last threat from Stella. Hope you're ready for tomorrow because I am. I touched the locket and glanced at the red X's marking my walls. Bring it on, I whispered. Tomorrow, everything would change. Either I'd save my home and expose Stella's schemes or lose everything I'd fought for. But looking at my grandmother's proud smile in that old photo, I knew one thing. I wasn't going down without a fight. The rehearsal dinner was buzzing with nervous energy. Scylla sat at the head of the table, dressed in white and commanding the room, while Valentine mingled with the guests, charming investors. I sat between Paisley and Jace, the locket cool against my skin, waiting for my moment. Look who just arrived, Paisley whispered. Sarah, my lawyer, is here with Leah, right on schedule. SAA's smile faltered for a second before she recovered and greeted them. Leah, darling, I was worried you wouldn't make it after our disagreement. I wouldn't miss it, Leah said coolly, then turned to the guests. Have you met Sarah? She's a fascinating person who specializes in real estate fraud. The room quieted a bit as Valentine appeared at Scylla's side, his hand firmly on her arm. Perhaps we should start the toasts, he suggested. Wonderful idea, I said, rising and raising my glass. I'd like to go first. Scylla's face turned pale. That's not on the program. Oh, but I insist, I countered, moving to the center of the room. After all, what kind of cousin would I be if I didn't congratulate you on your achievements? The room went silent as all eyes focused on me. Vivian, my mother warned me, I heard her say softly. It's okay, Mom. I'm just going to share some interesting documents with everyone, I explained, nodding to Sarah as she began handing out folders. Consider it my wedding gift, security, Stella called out, but Leah quickly blocked the door. Let's start with the emails, I continued, my voice carrying across the stunned room as I detailed plans to forge documents, manipulate my family, and steal my home for Val's development project. Valentine stepped forward. These are private business matters. Fraud is never private. Nor is forgery, Sarah interjected. Which brings us to Exhibit B, the falsified complaints and permits, complete with unauthorized notary stamps from Scylla's father. Scylla's father stood, his face red. Wait just a minute. The ethics board is very interested in your involvement, Sarah added smoothly. They'll be in touch. You're ruining everything. SAA shrieked, lunging for the folders, but Jace was faster, already passing copies to board members. Like you tried to ruin my life, I said, recalling the threats and the brick through my window. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Valentine's sister stood. The police have been notified, she announced. About everything, Val, do something. Sella pleaded, but Valentine was busy reading the documents, his face darkening with every page. You told me her family agreed to sell, that everything was legal. Sella protested. It was just business, a simple property acquisition. Simple, I replied. I pulled out my phone and played the security footage Leah had given me. Sella's voice filled the room after the rehearsal dinner. It won't matter anymore. What were you planning? Valentine demanded. What happens after dinner? Stella's silence said it all until her father broke in. The demolition crew is scheduled for midnight, he admitted. We thought that if the house was already down, you'd destroy my home tonight. My voice cracked. While everyone was celebrating your wedding? Chaos erupted, investors stormed out, board members huddled in corners, and family members argued loudly. Through it all, Sella stood frozen, her perfect world crumbling. The development deal is off, Valentine announced, and so is the wedding. But the deposits, the contracts, Sella's voice was small. They're void due to fraud, Sarah supplied helpfully, as is the eviction notice. My mother approached Sella slowly. How could you do this to family, she asked. Because she never cared about family, I murmured. Only power, control, and getting what she wants, no matter who she hurts. Stella finally lost her composure. You think you've won? You've ruined everything I worked for. No, I replied, touching my grandmother's locket. You did that yourself. Every lie, every scheme, every betrayal, that was all you. The police arrived, asking questions and taking statements as I watched Sella's carefully constructed facade crumble. The house is yours, my father said, hugging me tight. It always was. We just forgot what family really means. Later, outside the restaurant, Paisley squeezed my hand. How does it feel? I looked up at the night sky, thinking of my grandmother's photograph, like justice, like home. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Leah. Board meeting tomorrow. Val Ram's pulling out of all neighborhood developments. You did it, justice indeed. But watching SAA being escorted into a police car, mascara streaking her cheeks, I felt no joy in her downfall, only relief that my home, my family's legacy, was finally safe. The morning sun streamed through my newly repaired window as I sipped coffee on the front porch. A newspaper headline caught my eye. Valum Development faces investigation. CEO steps down. Below it, a smaller headline read, Local woman charged with fraud, criminal conspiracy. My phone rang, Leah. Have you seen the news? Just reading it now. How are you holding up? Better than expected. The board appointed me interim CEO. Turns out exposing corruption has its perks. A car pulled into the driveway. My mom carried a large box while Dad lugged what looked like photo albums. I'll call you back, I told Leah. Mom set the box down carefully. We've been through the attic and found some things that belong here. Inside were pieces of my grandmother's life, her journal, recipes, old letters. Dad opened one of the albums, pointing to a faded photograph. That's her, the day she bought this house. She said it was the proudest moment of her life, until you were born, Mom added softly. She always wanted you to have it. The screen door creaked as Paisley emerged with more coffee. Look, who just pulled up? A police car parked across the street. Officer Martinez approached, holding a document. Miss Harding, we've recovered some items from Stella's office, things she took from your house. He handed me a folder. Also, she's agreed to a plea deal with a full confession. Thank you, I said, taking the folder. Inside were old photographs she had stolen years ago, claiming they were lost. The DA wants to know if you'll testify about the harassment, Officer Martinez added. I looked at my repaired window, remembering the brick, the threats, the fear. Yes, I will, I replied. He nodded and left. Mom touched one of the recovered photographs. Your 5th birthday, she said. Sella was so jealous of your party she threw cake at you. We should have seen the signs back then. We all missed the signs, I admitted, but we can't change the past. Jace's truck rumbled up the street with Valentine unexpectedly in the passenger seat. They carried construction supplies. Before you say anything, Jace called out, I volunteered. Valentine set down a paint can. I owe you, we all do. Let me help restore what we almost destroyed. I studied him for a moment, then nodded. Let's start with the back porch, it needs new railings. The day unfolded like a healing breath. While Jace and Valentine worked on repairs, Mom and I sorted through grandmother's belongings, and Paisley organized a neighborhood potluck on the lawn. Even Leah stopped by, bringing corporate documents showing Val's new commitment to historic preservation. The board wants to establish a fund to help homeowners restore historic properties instead of demolishing them, she explained. Karma works in mysterious ways, Paisley mused as evening approached. Neighbors gathered on the lawn, sharing food and stories. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door brought her famous empanadas, your grandmother's favorite. She used to host dinners like this all the time, she recalled. The house was always full of people, full of life. I touched my locket, thinking of the photograph inside. Maybe it's time to restart that tradition. Dad raised his glass. To new beginnings and old foundations, Mom added. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Plea deal finalized, Stella's serving time, and the house is officially safe. Looking around at my family, friends, and neighbors, I realized something. This house wasn't just walls and windows, not just a property to be saved. It was a home filled with memories and possibilities. You know, Paisley said, your birthday is coming up again. No surprise parties this time. I laughed. No, she agreed, but maybe a housewarming to celebrate properly. I watched Jace and Valentine joking about porch designs, Mom sharing grandmother's recipes with neighbors, and Dad recounting the house's history to fascinated listeners. I'd like that, I said. A fresh start. The evening wind carried the scent of blooming jasmine, grandmother's favorite, planted along the fence. And like the house itself, it had endured into fresh beginnings. I raised my glass in a toast to coming home, and the crowd echoed it, their voices mingling with crickets and distant wind chimes. This was what Stella never understood. No development plan could capture the heart of a home, beating strong through generations. Sitting on my porch steps, surrounded by love and laughter, I knew that while the battle for my house was over, the story of this home was just beginning. And this time, every page would be filled with joy instead of fear, with welcome instead of walls, with family, the kind you're born into and the kind you choose. This was my legacy, my victory, my peace, and it was beautiful.